The NFL trade deadline is creeping up fast. November 4th is right around the corner, and that means it's officially trade season in the league. And if there's one team we need to keep a close eye on, it's the Chicago Bears. Why? Because they've got the cap space, the needs, and the flexibility to pull off some interesting moves. But what kind of trades are we even talking about here? Let's break this down. Not every deal is a headline grabber, right? Some are big-time, shake-up-the-league type of trades. Others are more about depth, special teams, or just taking a flyer on a former top prospect. So with that in mind, there are really 3 levels of trades the Bears could explore. Blockbuster trades that make fans lose their minds, significant upgrades for starting spots or high-end rotation guys, and minor deals for depth, special teams, or long-term development. Now, starting with those dream scenarios, the blockbuster trades. These are the moves that don't happen often, but when they do, they can shift the balance of power in the league. Think of a top-tier edge rusher or a game-changing defensive lineman. Guys like Trey Hendrickson, Jeffrey Simmons, Max Crosby, and Quinnen Williams. But let's be honest, as much fun as it is to imagine one of them suiting up in Chicago, most of these guys probably aren't going anywhere. Let's start with Hendrickson. Just a few weeks ago, there was real buzz around the idea that the Bengals might move on from him. Their season looked like it was teetering on the edge, and a loss to Pittsburgh would have buried them in the division. But they won, and with that win, the Bengals pulled themselves back into the playoff hunt. Now, sitting at 3-4, they're only a game and a half behind, and you can tell the front office still believes in this group. So unless they drop the next 2 games, one of them being against the Bears, the chances of Hendrickson being available have taken a big hit. Still, if you're a Bears fan dreaming of adding him, you're rooting for Cincinnati to fall flat. That's the only way this conversation gets real again. Same story with Jeffrey Simmons. Tennessee's season isn't exactly inspiring confidence, but multiple reports have made it clear the Titans are not interested in moving their defensive anchor. After Brian Callahan was fired, teams started calling. The phones were ringing off the hook. But Tennessee shut it down quickly, saying Simmons was off limits. Could that change? Sure, it always can. Teams say they won't move a player until they do. We've seen it before. A star gets frustrated, maybe even requests a trade, and suddenly things get messy. But right now, it looks like Simmons is staying put. Even if the Bears wanted to throw together a big offer, they'd need to move money around. They've got around $8 or $9 million in cap space, but a deal for someone like Simmons would require a lot of financial juggling, possibly even moving a contract or restructuring. Doable? Yes. Likely? Not really. And then there's Max Crosby. Now, this one felt like pure fantasy from the beginning, even though the rumor mill got loud for a second. The Raiders were reportedly fielding calls. Even the Cowboys supposedly checked in, but that was quickly shot down. The Raiders and Crosby had a meeting, and they made it clear he's not being traded. That's been the stance for a long time. Crosby has been loyal. He's embraced being the face of the franchise, even through the dysfunction and coaching changes in Vegas. The only way he's leaving, it seems, is if he asks out himself. And up to this point, that hasn't happened. But at the same time, you can't help but wonder, how long does a guy like that keep grinding on a losing team before he finally says enough is enough? One name that hasn't gotten as much buzz, but could be sneaky interesting, is Quinnen Williams. The chatter has been quiet, but that might be exactly why the Bears should be paying attention. Connor Hughes, who covers the Jets, mentioned recently that the team would probably want a second-round pick if they were to move Williams. And there's been speculation that the defensive tackle isn't thrilled with the direction of the Jets. Who could blame him? The Jets are a mess. Now here's where it gets interesting. Williams' cap hit this year is just a little over $10 million, and that number drops every week. The Bears could absorb that number right now, no problem. And his contract going forward isn't bad either. Next year, he's at $20.7 million and $25.4 the year after that. There's even an out in 2026. So this isn't some giant, backbreaking deal. You get a top-tier interior pass rusher, a guy who can play the run and disrupt the quarterback, and you'd only have to give up a second-rounder? That's a phone call worth making. Put him next to Jervin Dexter, and suddenly your interior line has some real bite. Still, let's not get carried away. The Bears are sitting in a spot right now where a massive trade might not make a ton of sense. This team has made some progress lately, but is it really one move away from contending? Probably not. Unless Chicago rattles off a couple big wins before the deadline, we're probably not going to see another Montez Sweat type move. But again, the league is fluid. Perception changes fast. If they're 7-2 in a couple weeks, suddenly a big swing starts to look a lot more reasonable. So, are the Bears in position to make a blockbuster move? Today, probably not. But check back in 2 weeks. Momentum changes everything. Now let's pivot to the more realistic zone, the significant upgrades. These are the moves that are more attainable, but still impactful. You're talking about starting caliber players or guys who can step in as high-end contributors. One name that stands out right away is Jermaine Johnson. Now, this one had people talking after he posted the "I'm not leaving" meme from Wolf of Wall Street on social media. Naturally, fans started speculating. Was this a shot at the Jets? Was he being told he might be on the move? But when Johnson met with the media, he clarified. The Jets told him they want to keep him, and he told them he wants to stay. So for now, it sounds like that door is closed. But again, if New York completely spirals, maybe they revisit things. Johnson is young, on a manageable contract, and has upside. If he did become available, that's a player worth chasing. You could get a year and a half of team control, and if it doesn't work out, a fourth-round pick isn't a massive price. And let's be real, with his injury history, that's probably the ceiling of what you'd give up anyway. Then you've got Riq Woolen, the cornerback out of Seattle. This one is interesting because the Bears have been poking around the cornerback market lately. Tariq Stevenson has been banged up again, and even if he stays healthy, the depth at outside corner is razor thin. Right now, Jalen Jones is technically the top backup, but the coaching staff doesn't seem to trust him in key moments. Woolen, on the other hand, is a guy with real starting experience. He's long, athletic, and plays with an edge. He had a breakout rookie year, and while he's been a bit up and down since then, he still offers more upside than most of what the Bears currently have in reserve. Multiple league execs think Seattle is willing to move him. One even said flat out, he doesn't fit what Mike McDonald wants to do. That's telling. Seattle might be ready to move on. And if you're the Bears, you should be watching this one closely, especially if Stevenson's injury lingers or if you get exposed in a matchup like Cincinnati with weapons like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Riq Woolen isn't perfect, but he could give you real competition at corner, and if nothing else, improve your depth in a spot where you're walking tightrope. And then there's Quinnen Williams again. Yes, he could fall into both categories depending on how you look at it. If the Jets are truly open to a second-round pick, that's a significant, but not crazy, price for a player of his caliber. You're not mortgaging the future, and you're addressing a core part of your defense. The same goes for Breece Hall, although that one feels a bit more complicated. He's productive, versatile, and can catch the ball, but the Bears' running back room has started to settle. If you'd asked a few weeks ago, Breece Hall might have made sense as a target. But now, maybe not. Unless someone gets hurt or the run game completely falls apart, that move probably doesn't happen. Still, if the Jets are desperate and the asking price is right, you keep that name in the back pocket, just in case. And finally, there's Jalen Phillips. The edge rusher from Miami is in the last year of his deal, and while he's talented, this would feel like more of a rental unless you're prepared to extend him quickly. That's a risky play. You've already got money tied up in your defensive front, so bringing in another guy who's about to get paid raises questions about who you're planning to move on from in the offseason. Not out of the question, but not a slam dunk either. When we shift our attention to the final group of names, the minor trade targets, this is probably where the Bears are most likely to make a move if they make one at all. These are not the deals that lead SportsCenter or get fans rushing to buy jerseys, but they're the ones that quietly matter. These are the roster depth moves, special teams help, developmental projects, or players who've fallen out of favor on their current teams. And let's be honest, these kinds of trades happen way more often than the big splashes. We're talking about 6th or 7th round pick swaps, maybe a conditional draft selection, or even just taking on a contract in exchange for a player that needs a change of scenery. One of the more intriguing names in this category is Tyree Wilson. A former first-round pick who hasn't quite found his stride in the NFL, Wilson's blend of size, length, and power made him a favorite of a lot of scouts when he came out of Texas Tech. but things just haven't clicked in the league. He battled through a foot injury that lingered into his rookie year, and he's never really flashed the explosiveness he showed in college. Some scouts now see him more as a tweener, not quite an edge rusher, not quite a defensive tackle, and he's been shuffled around a bit in his current system. But that might actually work in the Bears' favor. With the right coaching and a defined role, he's still got the traits to contribute. Dennis Allen tends to like those long, powerful edge defenders, and Chicago could give Wilson a real chance to reset his career. You're not trading for him to come in and start immediately. This would be a long-term project with short-term rotational upside. And if the asking price is low, say a late-round pick or a player-for-player swap, that's a low-risk, high-reward move. Another name to consider is Cam Taylor-Britt. He was recently benched in Cincinnati after a slow start to the year, but that doesn't erase what he's done in the past. Over the last 2 seasons, Taylor-Britt has racked up 7 interceptions and over 20 breakups. That's production you don't just ignore. He has shown he can make plays on the football. This year hasn't been pretty, but sometimes a change of scenery is all it takes for a player to get back on track. For the Bears, who are thin at outside corner behind Tariq Stevenson and Deshaun Wright, adding someone like Taylor-Britt makes a lot of sense. Wright has made some splash plays this season, a couple picks, a fumble recovery, but he's also been burned in coverage, which is understandable given his role as a journeyman turned starter. Taylor-Britt might not be a guaranteed upgrade, but at the very least, he gives you insurance and competition. You're not giving up anything major here. Maybe a pick swap, maybe a future conditional 6th-rounder. That's the kind of flyer you take in October when your depth is shaky. Then there's Jerome Ford. If the Bears are worried about Roscoe Johnson's back injury, even just as a precaution, Ford could be an interesting option. He's not flashy, but he's efficient and does a little bit of everything. The kind of guy who can step in as a third back, help on special teams, and not completely tank your offense if he's forced into a bigger role. His production over the last 2 seasons has been solid. Over 600 yards in each of them, over 4 yards per carry, and he's added some value as a pass catcher too. He's not a star, but he's dependable, and sometimes that's all you need, especially when your current running back room has had trouble staying healthy. Ford's usage has dropped this year because of a logjam in the backfield, but he's the type of player who could be a great fit for a team like Chicago that just needs a little more stability in the rotation. If you can get him for cheap, and you should be able to, he's worth a look. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In a move that has sent shockwaves through the NFL world, star running back SAQUON Barkley has reportedly signed with the Chicago Bears, ending weeks of speculation about his future. The news broke late last night, and while details are still emerging, insiders say the deal is massive, both in money and in implications for the league's balance of power. For weeks, rumors swirled around Barkley's potential destinations. The Eagles, Ravens, and even the Dolphins were rumored to be in the mix. Few, however, saw Chicago as a serious contender. Yet here we are. The Bears, long searching for a true offensive centerpiece, have landed one of the league's most electrifying players. And according to several league sources, this move didn't just come together overnight. It's been brewing quietly for months. People underestimated the Bears' pitch, said one anonymous agent familiar with the negotiations. They sold Barkley on legacy, not just money. Chicago wanted a face of the franchise, and SAQUON wanted a fresh start where he could build something. The signing has already ignited heated debates across social media. Fans in Chicago are celebrating, while others question how Barkley, once the heart of the New York Giants offense, could leave his old team so abruptly. Some see it as a betrayal. Others see it as liberation. After several seasons marked by injuries and inconsistent team performance, Barkley may have simply wanted out, and the Bears offered both cash and a new beginning. For Chicago, this could mark the turning point they've been desperate for. Pairing Barkley's explosive athleticism with quarterback Caleb Williams gives the Bears a 1-2 punch that could redefine their offensive identity. This isn't just a signing, said one NFC executive. It's a statement. Still, questions remain. Can Barkley stay healthy? Can the Bears' offensive line give him the space to thrive? Or will this blockbuster deal go down as another high-price gamble in the team's long rebuild? One thing is certain, the NFL world is buzzing. The Bears just changed the conversation, and SAQUON Barkley, once again, is at the center of it all. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.